Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're gonna continue and finish the little flour sack animation that we have right here. So what I mean by finishing is we're of course gonna be doing a little bit of polishing. There's just a couple of things that we can change to make this thing look a little bit nicer. And then I'm gonna be showing you how to render this thing out, not just as a play blast, which we talked about before, but as an actual render that you can see and send your friends or share or anything. So Alt-1 to turn on the keyframes or the curves again. And what I want to do is I want to create a little bit of overlap. Similar to what we did on the pendulum exercise on the past module, I want to make sure that certain things don't, or that things don't happen all at the same time. And the easiest way for me to show you this are the ears. The ears behave in a very nice way because they're this sort of like appendages that follow the shapes of the main flour sack, right? And up until this point, they pretty much follow everything in a very nice way. But here, I wouldn't expect the ears to fall at the same distance or at the same speed as everything else. So let me show you how we can do this and make it a little bit more interesting. So I know that at frame 24, the ears are going to start doing this sort of like bendy, like C-shape kind of look, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the main ears right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to grab frame 24 and frame 26, both of these frames, and I'm just going to delay them a couple of frames like this. So now what's going to happen is that the flour sack is going to fall, and see how the ears are still like completely straight? So the flour sack already fell, but the ears are still falling, and a couple of frames later, they will fall like this, okay? So now we can do even a little bit more. I think like let's do a couple of more frames, like 4 frames. There we go. I think this is better. So now the ears are gonna fall way later. You can see this effect right there. And when they go back up like this, I also want them to go back up a little bit later. So I'm also gonna grab this frame and let's move it like 4 frames after this. So what's gonna happen now is this. The flour sack will fall. A couple of frames later, the ears will create this curl shape, and then they'll start going up, 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 up. The flour sack will finish going up, and a couple of frames later, as you can see there, the ears are gonna finish the animation. See that? So that thing right there, that's exactly what I'm talking about when we were working with the pendulum. That's the overlap and the follow through. We want things to follow a little bit after the main animation. So now if we see it as a whole, we're gonna see this. See that very nice flowy effect on the ears? And that's thanks to that effect. Now, the only issue with doing that, with offsetting things a little bit, is the fact that if I now grab all of the elements, you're gonna see that we have some extra frames. So I always recommend doing this step at the very end of animations, because again, otherwise it might be a little bit difficult to read. The graph editor will always tell you where things are, and of course, if I were to select the ears, it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on. But it's important to understand that now, since we've offsetted certain keyframes, you're definitely going to see more keyframes here that are not necessarily happening everywhere on the rig. It's only happening on certain areas. I do think that we could even grab like the head here, and especially like on this fall right here, we could give it a couple of frames. Like maybe 1, let's try 2 frames and let's see how that looks. Yeah, that doesn't look bad. Like by offsetting the head of the flour sack a little bit, we get this bouncy effect again. We also have that very soft effect on the ears, and that's gonna give me a very nice smooth effect on the whole thing. Instead of every action on this animation happening at the same time, we have this offset where certain things happen before and certain things happen after. We're going to be seeing this principle quite a bit, especially later when we work with the Fox rig that we downloaded before, and yeah, that's the general principle. So as you can see, this is looking very nice. So now let's talk about the final elements. So for the final elements, or for the final polish, which is rendering, there's 2 options that we have. We can do the same option that we did before with the what was it? With the bouncing balls, where we turn on like our shadows, motion blur, the anti-aliasing and everything, and do a play blast, which is not bad. Or we can go the Arnold route and do an actual like render sequence. So I am gonna do a render sequence, and I'm gonna show you a very nice little trick to give this fall here a little bit more punch. So I'm gonna go here into rendering. I'm gonna create a new camera, and I'm gonna say panels, look through selected. This is now a new like perspective shaped camera. And I'm gonna position this camera in such a way that we capture the animation in the best way. If you turn on this thing right here, this is the resolution gate. This is what we're gonna be rendering. And if we go to the first frame, we can see that this is what we have, which is perfect. Now, cameras can also be animated, which is great for us. Because what I can do here is I can start right here on frame number 1, select the camera right here, this camera 1, which by the way, I'm gonna change the name to ShotCam, and press the letter S to animate it. Then, as the flour sack jumps, like this, I could like move down, reposition myself in this area, for instance. Okay, so we got this animation where the flour sack jumps. I'm repositioning myself, and then when he falls, right here, boom, I'm gonna animate the camera. After 1 frame, I am gonna move the camera down. After another frame, I'm gonna move the camera up, and then after a couple of more frames, I'm just gonna reposition the camera like this. And now look how this, pretty cool, right? There's just a small camera shake there to emphasize the fact that this guy is falling and creating all of this element. Now I think that the element should be just like 1 frame shorter, like this. There we go. Let's give it a try now. There we go. I do think that maybe the rotation is a little bit fast, so I'm going to take this one right here, move it all the way here. So right as we finish the rotation, we get that little like earth tremble right there. And as you can see, we get this very, very nice effect. Now imagine adding a little bit of a like a rumble or something with sound effects, and little by little this whole, even though it's a very simple and small animation, it starts becoming this very, very intense effect, right? So one thing we can do here, like if we go right about here, where the shake begins, let's see if I can bring all the weight of the, well, I'm not gonna move the camera, careful here, I'm gonna go into perspective mode. Actually, let me go here, panels, look to selected. Let's go here, because I think we destroyed the angle. So here, and then this is gonna go down. It's gonna go up. This is gonna go down, and then we just like recover. Maybe a little bit of extra animation all the way to the end, so that the camera is always moving, even if it's a little bit, just to create some nice effect there, right? And look at that, we get this like boom, like a stomp that the little flour sack is doing, which I think looks nice. Now, in order to render this, we need to do a couple of things. First, light. I'm gonna go into Arnold, Lights, Area Light, not Area Light, sorry. Arnold, Lights, let's create a sky dome light. And on the sky dome light, let's do the same thing we did for the crane or for the robot arm. I'm gonna add this peppermint power plant, there we go. Let's save this real quick. Let's take a quick look at how the render looks. So let's render this in really fast. Let's just wait for this to process. The object is using a Lambert. I know that that's not the surface material, but it should be fine. Usually Lambert materials do work well with this element. And yeah, as you can see, we're looking at the little flour sack there very nicely. I am going to turn off the visibility on this guy. So down here on the visibility camera, I'm going to turn all the way to 0. So now we're not going to see it. We're just going to see that little flour sack. I'm also going to go into my options and change this to GPU, so that the render is a little bit faster. That looks good. The only issue is that this render is a little bit noisy. So I'm gonna go into Arnold Renderer, turn on adaptive sampling, enable this. Let's say 10 samples. I think 10 samples should be more than enough. I want the render to be relatively fast, which in this case, as you can see, it's 4 seconds per frame. So at this resolution, I think that's acceptable. We can even go a little bit higher on the noise, like let's go 0.05, and we should get like 2 seconds render time. Let's do 8 samples. Again, just to keep it or make it a little bit faster. There we go. Now if we go to the final frames, oh, of course, we need to change this to the ShotCam because we want to see the ShotCam like this. So if we do a quick scrub right here, we're going to see that this is the animation that we're going to have with a nicer render, a nicer look, and it's going to look very, very cool. Now, how do we convert this into images that we can export as an image sequence so that we can create a video? Very simple. You're going to go into render settings, common. You're going to change the image format. Let's do JPEG for now. 100 quality, that's fine. And I'm going to change this frame animation. I'm going to say name, number, and extension. That way, what we're going to get is we're going to get flowersack.0001, 002, 003, all the way until 49. So start frame, frame 1, end frame, frame 49. There we go. I'm going to render from the shot cam, and HD 540 is fine. Usually, if you have a full license from Arnold, you can do something called a batch render. But since we don't have that right here, what I'm going to do is a render sequence. So I'm going to go into this little eye right here, which is the render view, the Maya render view. And I'm going to say render, render, and I'm going to render from the shot cam. Very important that we render from the shot cam. That way, I'm pretty sure that that's the camera that I'm going to get my render sequence from. Otherwise, if I were to do the traditional perspective camera, then, well, you're going to see a perspective animation. So there we go. That's looking good. And I'm going to say render, and I'm going to say render sequence. In the option boxes, just very important to render from the specific camera that we want. We want to render to the basic location, which is going to be our images folder from our project. And yeah, it's just render sequence. And now what's going to happen is you're going to go frame, or Maya is going to go frame by frame, and it's going to start rendering all the elements. Your computer might slow down during this process. I recommend leave the computer alone, wait for the render to finish, and then keep working, because otherwise you're just using resources that would be better spent finishing the render faster. So this one right here is going to take a couple of minutes. I'm going to stop the video right here, guys. And in the next one, we're going to start with the next exercise. But before we do the next exercise, I'll show you the final render sequence that we have for our render. So hang on tight, finish your exercise, polish, do the overlaps and the follow-throughs, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.